All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and I've been going over the PowerPoint presentations for Murox ASP.NET 4.6 with C# 2015, 6th edition. We are working our way through Chapter 18 in our text, which is how to use model binding in the entity framework. I'm up to page 676, and the next 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 pages, 12 pages, discuss this product maintenance application. This works very similarly to what we saw in Chapter 15, but again, it's going to use as the one in Chapter 15 did, it uses a grid view control to list the products on the left side of the page, and it's got paging in it, and when the user clicks the select button on a product, then the details for that product are displayed in the details view on the right hand side. Now, what's shown here next, these are the signatures for the methods that are used in the binding. These methods are stored in a data access class that's called productDB. This first select method that you see here, notice there are 3 of them. So the first select method is used to get the products that are displayed in the grid view control. The second is used to get the product that's selected in the grid view and display that product's information in the details view control. The third select method is used to get the categories that are displayed in the drop-down list that's displayed in the details view when a user is updating or inserting a product. Then we've got the update and delete methods that are used to update and delete the products that's being displayed in the details view control, and the insert method that's used to insert a new product. Now, unlike the methods that we saw back in Chapter 17, these methods are not public. That way, an instance of the data access class can be created and passed to the grid view and details view controls. Now, what's shown in the book on pages 679, 680, and 681 are what the author deems the critical code in the of the default.aspx file. All right, the grid view is similar to the one that we saw earlier in the chapter for the product list application. What's different is it includes an event handler for the calling data methods event. As this event handler is also used by the details view control, it's given a generic name of control calling data methods, and you can see it in the yellow there. After the grid view control, is a validation summary control used to display any errors. Then we've got the details view control, and you can see that in the yellow here, that includes the item type property. So it's strongly typed. That way you can use either item or bind item keywords in its templates. You're seeing those here in the yellow. All right. Now we've also got the edit item and insert item templates. They also use a drop-down list for the category field. Like the grid view and the details view controls, they use model binding. In fact, they use the same event handler for the calling data methods as the other controls did. Now, in the book on pages 682 and 683, they show the code behind file for the default.aspx page, and you see virtually all of it here. I don't know if there's more on the, yep, a little more on the next page. So this first event handler is for the calling data methods event of the grid view, details view, and drop-down list control. This event handler creates an instance of the product DB access class, then assigns it to the data methods object property of the calling data methods event args object passed into the event handler. In that way, the control knows where to find the select or update or delete or insert methods that they need. Now the next three things that we see here, the item deleted, the item inserted, and the item updated, each of these, all they do is they call the data bind method of the grid view control. So the control can always display the correct products because they have just, one has been updated or a new one has been added. I'm sorry, one has been deleted or a new one has been added or an existing one has been updated. And the last thing that we see in here is our old familiar thing that we have so that we're able to use the bootstrap classes. Okay? All right. Then the next thing that's shown here is the product DB class, and that's on pages 684 and 685. This is the class, again, the product DB data access class that's used by the application. You'll notice at the top in the yellow, we've seen this before, that it starts with using directives that are needed to handle concurrency and data validation errors. This class has 3 select methods. All right. The one that's named get products that you see on the bottom of the screen is used to get the products that are displayed in the grid view control. Now it returns an iQueryable object, and we've talked about this a little bit before, but the iQueryable makes it much easier to implement paging and sorting. All right. The get product, as opposed to get products method, the get product is used to display the product that's displayed in the details view. So this will display all of them, and this will just display in one single product. The get categories if the value that's passed by the grid view isn't null, the get product method continues by calling the get product by ID. You'll notice that that's a private method. Private methods like that are oftentimes known as helper methods. All right. In other words, they're a method that a public method calls, but there's no reason that the outside world has to know about that. I've given this example before, and it's maybe not a great example. Let's suppose that I have 2 students, all right, Bob and Mary, and Bob owes me a favor. So I'm in class one day, and I give Bob $1.50, and I say, Bob, do me a favor, go down to the lounge and get me a water. And Bob says, okay, and he's about to do it, and he thinks, you know what, Mary owes me a favor. So rather than Bob leaves, but he sees Mary in the hallway, and since Mary owes him a favor, he said, hey, Mary, and he gives her the $1.50. He said, would you do me I'd like you to do me a favor and go down to the lounge, and here's $1.50 and get me a water. So she goes down to the lounge, gets a water, gives it back to Bob, who gives it to me. Now, Mary, for lack of better words, in this scenario, is a helper method. Okay, she was called by the main method, which would have been Bob, but I'm not the wiser. So quite often, if a public method has to do more work, it'll call a private or helper method to get it done. All right. The get categories method returns the categories ordered by long name, and you're seeing in these examples, you are seeing examples of using link. All right. Finally, we've got the insert product method that inserts a product into the products table. All right. Next, we've got the update product method that updates the selected product with the data the user enters into the details view control. The delete product method deletes the product that's selected in the grid view control. Okay? Now, one thing to notice is that nothing is going to happen if a product isn't found. And to understand that, and they mention this on the bottom of page 686, the author says, you need to remember that an application ends after it generates a web page. Because of that, the object context now will be null when the user clicks the delete button. Then if the product isn't found in the database, nothing needs to be done because the product doesn't exist in the object context. If we wanted to, we could provide some kind of a message to the user, but it's not necessary. And this code also catches the concurrency exceptions, and you can see those on the screen right here. A concurrency exception can occur if the product is deleted by another user between the time it's retrieved at the beginning of the delete product and the time the database is updated. It's unlikely to happen, but you still, in the event that you're using a database that's used by multiple users, you can never be too careful. All right. The only thing that's left now, we're going to have one more lecture, and it's going to be very short, and that's on how to use data annotations to validate data. And that's the last 4 pages of the chapter, starting on page 688, and I'll be back with that lecture in just a couple.